This is Cursed Earth Radio.
This week's episode of Cursed Earth Radio's Weekly Dredd is brought to you by Gleeveman's Comic Shop.
Intergalactic nerds and stuff. What?
Dredd, turn on your transistor radio. It's our favorite program. Hooray!
This is Cursed Earth Radio.
What's up, Dark Judges, Desperados, and Dudes in Dick-Shaped Helmets? You're listening to Cursed Earth Radio, the one and only podcast bringing Dredd to the Dreadless.
Weekly Dredd to the Dreadless. And this week we're doing Prog 2200. It's our jumping on. We got a new Dredd story starting with Carry the Nine. We got Future Shock in the Prog, and on the cover, Hookjaw. Goddamn Hookjaw has his own returning series. Sinister or Dexter, Sinister or Dexter, I can't keep track of it. Skip Tracer's back, and Stickleback is almost as weird as Defoe without hooking me like Defoe done hooked me.
And this is Heavy Metal Kid.
And this is Cool Johnny Cool, and you're listening to Cursed Earth Radio's Weekly Dredd.
Man, I fucked up the intro again, Johnny.
I believe fucking things up are what makes us endearing and lovable.
No, sure. Well, I'm going to blame it on all of the podcast drama that we have had this week, because my mind is on that. I'm worried about that. I don't know what our podcast is. I don't know if we'll have a podcast next week because...
Oh, we will. It's a matter of where.
So let me explain to the listener what happened. So if you've been a long-time listener, which why would you be? Because after one or two episodes, you're sick of us. But if you've been a long-time listener, you'll know that last year around this time, we started this podcast and we jumped on with our current host, which is Podomatic. And then they tried to charge us a bunch of money. And I'm sure the service is worth it, but we don't make any money for this, obviously. And so we decided to switch to Podbean. And so we switched to Podbean, but we called Podomatic and told them we were switching to Podbean. And they said, no, please stay with us. We'll give you an entire year free, and then we'll give you a low rate after that year.
Neither of which were true.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, no. So we went with them. They got us back. They won us back like an abusive, codependent boyfriend. And then today, despite the fact that my agreement with Podomatic was that we would be free through the end of the year, we just got a $119 charge, which would have been okay. I mean, like I said, obviously we don't have a Patreon. We don't have any sort of other funding for this. We do it out of, love for Judge Dredd in the World 2000 AD. But what happened was I got on there and started looking, and it's not like a year charge. It's a $119 per month charge. And for us, that's insane for two dudes in their basements.
Considering this was supposed to be no bill until the end of 2020, and we've often joked that we were going to get like an $800 bill because it seemed too good to be true, and we'd always joke in private that you watch, these fuckers are going to hit us with a back due bill for everything, and we kind of got there today, the sons of bitches.
We did, and so we're left trying to figure out where we can go. Discussions of trying to maybe become part of a podcast network. I don't know how this stuff works, but what we have determined 100% is that starting today, because it's the jumping on Prog, and I should have mentioned that in the intro as well, but I've fucked everything up. Starting today, we're going to upload everything to the YouTube channel, starting with the Jumping On Prog and all of our episodes. We have a YouTube channel. It's a pain in the ass to upload, so we kind of got lazy. I got lazy. It's me that does it. And stopped uploading there. We do have a bunch of gaming content for Judge Dredd stuff there, but just to be safe, you can always find the latest Cursed Earth Radio episodes at the Cursed Earth Radio YouTube channel. I know some people probably don't like to listen that way, and by Grud, we're still going to be on Spotify and all that stuff. We just don't know exactly how that's going to work now. So if you come to find your favorite two American Judge Dredd dickheads talking about Judge Dredd and you can't find it, by all means, please check Cursed Earth Radio's YouTube channel. Maybe go subscribe, hit the like bell, and for God's sakes, I actually mean it this time. I used to mock that. I used to joke about that. But until we get this thing figured out, that's where you're going to be able to find us if you can't find us in other places. So there you go.
And we will continue to be a podcast. This fuckery be damned.
Yeah, I mean, last year we definitely, after looking around, found that it seemed like a service like Podbean was pretty affordable. They definitely stole us away, and then we went back. And I've had issues like this too, Johnny. With being in a band, my band's music is on streaming services everywhere, and I think it always kind of works that way. I started out with a really expensive streaming service, and then wisened up and realized that I was being charged too much to stream my records, and went with a different service, and everything was fine. So it's growing pains for us here at Cursed Earth Radio. But if by some chance, friends out there listening, if you have a podcast network or you are involved in podcasting in any way, let us know on our Facebook page. Give us some advice, because I'm sure there are people out there that know a whole lot more about this stuff. Our problem, Johnny, is we upload too much content. So the basic, if we did it once a month, we would be fine. But the basic services are not designed for like a weekly podcast. And we do 2 episodes a week. That's a huge amount of content going up.
I think we're pushing 500 plus hours of content.
Yeah.
Just in a year.
And
not all that's good,
but
it's there.
We're true. And we're already starting to see some of it drop off of social media. So
Thank God.
If we're paying, or through streaming, if we're paying $119 a month and we're still seeing drop off, I think there's like another step up, but it's insane.
Let's be honest. I'm not shedding a tear for those episodes that have fallen by the wayside thus far.
No, neither am I. Not at all. I am shedding a tear for all of the work that I'm perceiving will have to go into making a switch. I hate it. I don't like the idea. But you know what? We really, let's say, we have to clean slate it and restart uploading everything. It could be done. It would just take a while, and there may or may not be an episode missing here or there. But like you said, it really doesn't matter that people miss out on the old ones. So.
And they should. The first year, like the stuff that was going up around this time, I wave to it as it passes by. Yeah. And falls into the abyss.
Yeah, I agree. We'll be okay. So either way, here we are. It's the Jumping on Prog. We've been doing this for a long time, for an entire year, as a matter of fact. And here we are once again. This is where we started with Weekly Dredd, which was the Jumping on Prog. And right off the bat, would you say, Johnny, that this Jumping on Prog was stronger or weaker than the Jumping on Prog that we started out with?
You want me to be honest?
I do.
Weaker.
I agree.
Much. It's. You want to just get into it?
Let's
so I can nitpick the shit out of this.
Let's do it.
All right, Judge Dredd Carried the 9, Part 1. They talk a lot about the storm being over and the repairs. You know what they didn't talk about once?
What's that?
The goddamn moon being out of orbit. Yeah. That seems like a pretty big thing.
They mentioned that the weather system was messed up, but how about the entire climate? Because of the moon.
Yeah, the moon is closer to the Earth. The tides must be just fucked.
Yeah, they didn't really address that a whole lot. And, sometimes we can get really hung up on the little nitpicky details, but I would say this isn't a nitpicky detail.
It's a celestial body that was moved completely out of its orbit. That causes all kinds of catastrophic chaos.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I started reading this, and they started, we got all these repairs. You're not going to talk about the moon being out of orbit, huh? Just going to let that one slide right by. Everything's fine, huh?
There's a term that we have on Cursed Earth Radio, And it usually goes something like this. Whenever one of us nitpicks something, we'll say like, oh, that's your Slabyrinth. Because a long time ago, I got really frustrated and upset at the architecture of the Slabyrinth in Mega City. And I almost said that, but it really doesn't apply. Because to me, the Slabyrinth is a little weird element of a story that bothers you. It really is a huge thing. It really is a huge thing.
It's a moon that is out of its orbit.
Yeah.
How did you put it back?
Yeah, and they're just kind of glossing over that real quick. And here we are, the art is super fantastic.
Yeah, the art's a Wyatt art. It totally reminds me of the early to mid 90s art that I grew up first encountering.
Yeah, it's great. And it seems that the focus is on, while the whole moon situation is not been addressed, the focus is definitely on Mega City is in the fucking shithole. Everything's getting worse.
You're
all
gonna
the way
have to
back
be more
Day of Chaos.
specific.
Yeah, all the way back to Day of Chaos, things got worse and have gotten worse and worse since then. And it really is, that sinking ship. And so now I think the idea is that this analyst has discovered that if they just put more money into education, that the crime rates will go down altogether.
Yeah, Maitland, our friend from Trifecta and from Small House, is now the head of judge accounting, which seems to be the most mind-numbing department to be in the Department of Justice.
And I would say the safest, except for she was right in the shit in Trifecta. So
yes, she was.
Safe.
Yeah, it turns out if you learn you a book, crime go bye-bye.
So when does Judge Dredd come in and kick her in the neo-nuts?
Honestly, I this whole story was just eclipsed, no pun intended, by you're not going to talk about the moon, huh? And there it is. Look at page. Oh, God damn it. 7. Look at page 7.
Okay.
It's up there. It's up in the top left. Is it back in its orbit? Is it just kind of careening closer to us and now a spiral of an orbit sucked into our gravitational pull?
Well, Johnny, based on the last storyline that we read for Judge Dredd, End of Days, my guess is that somebody just stepped out under the moon and shot it one time with a bullet, because that's how they took out one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
You can't have the moon being moved out of its orbit as an integral part of the end of a story arc like that. And then in the beginning of the next story arc that picks up right where that one left off, go, all right, whatever. It's fine. Shut up. Just shut up. It's fine.
Even Johnny, I would even say, and I am a lover of all things 2000 AD, and I worship at the altar of John Wagner and Judge Joseph Dredd. But even in the Tick, even in the fantastic world of the Tick, there was a villain that started to write his name on the moon. He failed to get all the way up there. Yes, but every episode after that, the moon still had half of his name on it. So even in the Tick, the moon continuity is better than our current 2000 AD moon continuity.
Yeah, it's like, you can change the costume, big deal, and it's not the same as it was in the last story, and they're supposed to be one after the other. We can forgive that. You moved a celestial body. You've got to mention that.
Yeah, and you would actually think, that might even be kind of like a good story plot point.
How we put the moon back by Judge Dredd, age 80. That's all I could think of reading this story. Just all I could think of was say it. Say how you did it. Mention it. You can't ignore it.
They're gonna.
And like you said, this isn't the Slabyrinth. This isn't the Undercity. This is the moon.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, literally and figuratively.
Yes. The closer it gets, the more out of control our tides and weather get. You can't just shrug that off.
Yeah, that's a problem. And, as far as a story just kind of grabbing you, this one definitely does not grabbed me right off the bat. Now that's not always a bad thing. That's not always how it works. Sometimes it takes a little while to get into it. But I just think last year we were headed to Guatemala, and goddamn, what a great story.
I haven't been grabbed by the story yet because I'm still pissed off that they haven't talked about the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
moving on.
We're off to a weaker start than I would have hoped for, other than the artwork is fantastic.
Artwork is really fantastic. And like any Prog, I always, whenever we start a new story, I remain optimistic that the chapters will hook me as they come in. But unless these assholes talk about how we put the moon back in its normal orbit, I'm going to nitpick that the whole story. From here,
the rest of your life.
Exactly. From here on until one of these writers mentions directly how we put the moon back in its orbit, I'm going to be angry about it.
I completely understand, but I don't think we're going to get that.
I know in Six Gun Gorilla, the gorilla was there because that's what the story needed. But that's a psychic manifestation of a gorilla. You can't move a celestial body and go, well, that's what the story needed.
Now, I might even say that we didn't even need it. We didn't even need the moon to be moved.
No, they could have just Universal monstered us without the moon actually moving.
Sure. So that brings us to Future Shocks.
This one was a fun little... pardon me, I'm dying because I'm angry at the moon. And what's the movement of the moon going to do to the lycanthropes in the Undercity? These are real questions we have to deal with now in the world where the moon is where it's supposed to be no more.
There are so many problems created for werewolf and human alike.
Yes. We're going to do a whole podcast on what happens when you move the moon.
Well, we don't know because they haven't told us.
We're going to do all the scientific data on all the things the moon affects, and then we're going to do a whole podcast on it and make them mention the moon.
Oh my goodness. So, directorists. Sorry.
It was a fun story.
I liked it.
See, they moved the moon.
I'm not a. I think we were talking about this a few episodes back. I've never been huge on the Future Shocks.
Oh, see, there's one of my all-time favorite 2000 AD stories is a Future Shock.
Oh, yeah? Which one?
Yeah. Well, it got sandwiched in one of my Fleetways at the back end because they didn't have, like, the Dredd stories they had in it didn't fill up the whole issue. So they put a Future Shock in there to pad it out. And it's a story of these two guys that are vying to be the first man to go into the future in this time machine. And the one guy really wants to go, but he's losing to the other guy. He knows he's going to lose. So he either poisons him or like gives him sleeping pills so he misses the deadline. So they have to use him.
Yeah.
And they put him in the time capsule and they send him off and he's going to be rich. And he's thinking how rich he's going to be. And the thing comes back and they open it up and he is skeletal. And it turns out they shot him forward into the future and he got his wish, but he aged commensurate to the distance they shot him into the future. And he came back a corpse. And I just love that irony.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a true monkey's paw.
Yeah. And this one had that. This one had a good bit of that.
Moral of this story is, don't be a dick. Don't be a dick to another guy who's being a dick to an indigenous people whose planet has been destroyed. Theoretically. Supposedly.
Sure. And you got a nice exploding robot in this one, which I always like. It wasn't Walter exploding, which I would have preferred, but hey.
Why do you hate me?
We got a nice exploding robot.
I'm out here trying to spread the gospel of 2000 AD, and you just hate me so much.
No, sir. No, sir. You are trying to spread the gospel of 2000 AD's version of the devil, which is Walter.
Walter is a saint, and next week we're gonna do Case Files 1 next week on Curse Earth Radio, and just talk all about Luna 1 and the Lunar Olympics.
Oh, so the podcast really is over then. I see.
No need to seek out a new host.
Yeah. So the Future Shock. I'm not predisposed to love Future Shocks. I just there's something about my brain that always just considers them a filler story. I know they're not always. Sometimes they're great. But for the jumping on Prog, I really wish we would have got something else to jump on.
Yeah, it really did feel like they were stalling for time with a couple of these.
Yeah.
You know what I did like?
What's
was
that?
The intro to Hookjaw.
Oh,
I like the setup opening chapter.
man, shit is getting real weird.
Man, I would totally go to Story Night with Salty Pete just to hear tales of the origins of this demonic, demon-possessed killer shark.
I mean, we've said it before. Hookjaw needed to be in 2000 AD. Just even if just for the fact that you can now put Hookjaw on the cover of 2000 AD and people are going to want to read that. This was such a smart decision by Tharg to include Hookjaw, and by God, bring in Shaco every now and again too, because there's no reason to keep those guys separated, and especially since it appears that Hookjaw is now walking around on two legs.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of this. I didn't know. Oh my God, maybe it's a Normo overdrive.
It could
He's
be.
in Hookjaw the whole time.
I love the idea, whether it's an old seaman's tale. See, seaman.
See, you've been listening to that Turbo Negro album I gave you, didn't it?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Whether it's an old tale from the sea that a witch made the hook to control Hookjaw, or rather it's reality. I love that subplot. I love that little weird story. I think they could have done the story of that initial, battle with Hookjaw and the witch. They could have done that, and I would.
Oh yeah, I would have read the hell out of that.
If Hookjaw's running around on all fours, I'm gonna say that's fucking weird. But I'm down. I'm down for it. But man, is that fucking weird.
What did I tell you? The last, I think it was after we were at the podcast last week. I said, give me a story where it's Hookjaw and Shaco rides Hookjaw in the ocean, and then some lunatic makes Hookjaw a bipedal mech suit so he can walk the earth. They heard me.
Yeah,
that's what's happening.
Well, the lunatic that did that is Alec Worley. He heard you, and there he is.
I can't wait. Oh, my God. Can you imagine a buddy comic strip with just Hookjaw and Shaco on land just eating people?
I mean, we might get it. And we've also got great artwork in this one, too. Real nice, real gory. I love the quick close-up panel where the witch is being eaten. It's horrific. And Johnny, I have a massive fear of sharks. And that sense of movement and frantic thrashing that you get in that one little tiny panel is pretty scary.
So a bipedal land-walking shark is your worst nightmare.
No. Now a land-walking shark would be scary, but to me, the thing that makes the shark scary is the place where the shark is. Like
the deep, dark ocean.
The deep, the depths. You don't know if it's above you, below you, behind you. It's terrifying. On the streets, I don't have to worry about something coming up from beneath me.
Well, what if somebody gave Hookjaw some of that Encladius energy that Judge Smiley's troops are using in the small house, and he's all of a sudden able to defy the laws of physics and come out of nothing to your left?
Or what if somebody gave Hookjaw some enchilada energy and he just got a big hard shark dick?
Podcast award, please.
There we go.
There was a bunch of words strung together that I never thought I'd hear in this podcast. I don't know why, but
I was going to say your expectations are way off the mark then, if that's the case.
Hey, Sinister Dexter. Did Dexter people died? Is this what? I have no idea. I'm sure if you're a longtime reader of Sinister Dexter, this was shocking.
Dude, exactly what you said in the intro describes it for me. You're like, Sinister or Dexter died, and I don't know who.
I had to go back and look. I can't keep track.
We have read numerous issues of Sinister Dexter, and I still don't know who's who. And now they're confusing me anymore because they put like a rest in peace and the date, but then said to be continued. So I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I can imagine somebody who's read this since '95. This is really momentous, but for us looking in from the outside, like we have no idea what's happening.
Are we really looking in from the outside now, though? We really have read a large number of Sinister Dexters, and we're just still, we don't know what's happening still.
I think we went into this restaurant, got the appetizers, and then left.
If that's the case, I still feel like I'm even waiting for my appetizer, because nothing has whet my appetite for Sinister Dexter other than that first brilliant Bullet Time story. And
that cover.
It's hard. It is a hard... It's just hard to get into.
Is it shark dick hard?
Maybe. Depends on how much blue chew the shark has had.
Oh, no.
And, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the exact same for me in Skip Tracer.
Yeah.
I actually opened up... So when I opened this Prog... and I looked at the stories we were getting, I was disappointed then, because I was like, Future Shock, Sinister Dexter, Skip Tracer. It didn't have, it didn't have Proteus Vex, which I was hoping for. It didn't have the Dead World stuff that I was just hoping would show up. So there was a lot of disappointment on my part. And then I opened Skip Tracer, who I was sort of on the fence about anyways. And I thought for 1 second that it was that weird liquid metal anime girl from Sinister Dexter, because she looks very similar.
It's all just bleeding together for you, isn't it?
It is. And I'm just, I can already tell I'm going to struggle with Skip Tracer again. It was tough. It was a tough jumping on Prog, and I think you would venture to say if I had just jumped on for the first time, I don't know how much of this would have grabbed me. Being a longtime reader, I know that sort of 2000 AD comes in waves of greatness and pretty goodness. So I'm in. Obviously, I have the subscription, but I was disappointed that Skip Tracer was back, and and it's just not a story that I've connected with either. So
yeah, I totally agree with you, and I was trying to check myself before I in fact wrecked myself that it wasn't just nostalgia that I was coloring my love for last year's Jumping on Prog, but no, I think legitimately last year's Jumping on Prog was much stronger.
It felt bigger. It really did feel like it felt like some pretty big things were happening, and it was an exciting time to be reading 2000 AD. And this one was definitely a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. It fell flat. Like, I have no attachment to Skip Tracer, so but like I always do in the Prog, I will remain optimistic that I will enjoy this. Stickleback, I was like, oh man, this is going to be our Defoe. It's weird, but it ain't Defoe.
Now, Stickleback is a pre-established character. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I knew it existed, and there's a history behind it, but much like everything on this podcast, I don't know the history behind it.
Yeah.
so I'm giving it a wide berth. I need to look into it. I like the art.
This is actually my first Stickleback experience, too. I have known about the character for a while. I didn't look too deeply into it, and I will say it's quite unfortunate that Stickleback was created and then a band called Nickelback occurred, and anyone that you try to pitch this to, especially here in the United States, is going to say, I don't want to read Stickleback.
Yeah, you're going to get contextual splash damage.
Yeah. It's the Stallone Dredd for Stickleback, known as Nickelback.
Disraeli's doing the art, and I like the art, and I like the feel of it, and I like period pieces. That's one of the things that drew me to Defoe. So that's what's kind of drawn me in here, but I don't know enough about it to be like, yeah, let's go read some Stickleback.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I just was shocked again with regards to Stickleback this week. I'm having flashbacks to the Diabolics because when we read the Diabolics, they had, they have the five sisters. And I said, oh, man,
Yeah.
this is, clearly an homage to Dario Argento's Three Mothers with the five sisters. And they have, they have a lot of Italian horror names. But, Johnny, these are literally the Three Mothers. Like these are the Dario Argento Three Mothers that they're talking about. It's Lady Darkness. It's the Mother of Darkness, the Mother of Sighs, and the Mother of Tears. And those are very firmly. It's like these are the Three Mothers from the Dario Argento trilogy that they mention, and I'm all sorts of confused about this.
They're writing stuff. Somebody is listening to us and writing stuff specifically for you.
I guess. I'm just very confused how we got like an acknowledgement of the Three Mothers and the five sisters, but then they were just like, these are the Three Mothers. And I even did a little quick search because I thought, maybe I am attributing something that is like a long held piece of lore to having been created by Dario Argento. But at least to my 5 seconds worth of internet research, the only mention of the Three Mothers is as created by Dario Argento in his Three Mothers trilogy. So I'm all sorts of confused. And I know we've got... now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm an idiot and I just read Stickleback for the first time. Stickleback is he is Sherlock Holmes with amnesia who became a supervillain to hide amongst other supervillains and thwart their attempts?
That's what I got, but who knows? That's what it seemed to lay out, but like I said, we are loved because we are delightfully backwards, so I'm pretty sure if we're wrong, someone's going to tell us.
All right. Well, I need to know how Dario Argento's Three Mothers fit into this story, and I need to know if this is, in fact, an amnesiac Sherlock Holmes who now realizes that he's Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. I'm just confused. I like the artwork. I like the concept, if that is indeed what it is. And I like the fact that now we're bringing in supernatural terror in the form of the occult and, again, the Three Mothers. So,
yep, that's always how you're going to win me over, is throw the occult in there.
Sure, yeah. But, yeah, I was just sort of confused reading this one, even though they described it to me. Once the Three Mothers came in, everything else went out the window because I was just like, what is happening? And I went on an internet search, and that didn't yield a whole lot. So,
at least you tried, kid.
Mm-hmm. But overall, for me, not my favorite jumping on Prog, filled with some of my least favorite things that we find in 2000 AD. But I'm always willing to give things a second, third, fourth, and fifth chance, which I've already done with Sinister Dexter. But Skip Tracer, I'm willing to keep reading because who knows? There might be
because it's in next week's Prog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Sinister or Dexter killed Sinister or Dexter this week. I can't keep track of any of this.
Yeah, and it really didn't help with the little RIP because it was like Sinister Dexter this time to this time. I'm like, couldn't you have at least just said the name of the dude who died?
Nope, they're screwing with us now.
I know.
Yeah.
So there you go. An
auspicious. I didn't hard sell this like I said I was going to, and in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't want to have to answer questions about this when people said, dude, I just wasted whatever on this. Why did you make me do that?
Yeah, that's true. And in all honesty, I had planned on doing the same thing where I was going, on my social media and all that, hey guys, now's your chance to jump on to the Galaxy's Greatest Comic, like this is my favorite thing. It's meant so much to me over the years. Check it out. Here's the jumping on Prog. But I honestly don't feel like there's a single thing in here that would hook somebody or blow anybody's mind. I almost feel like going back and saying, hey guys, here's last year's jumping on Prog.
Yeah, start from here. On it, yeah, I completely agree, because as I read this, even as an avid fan of 2000 AD, I was like, oh man, there's just nothing in here that has got me, hey, I can't wait till next week.
It's hard when also you are getting involved in these jumping on progs, and we have to give them some leeway because they never reboot, and that's great. But you jump in, and Judge Dredd is really firmly addressing what happened in the last prog. So there's a little, for a new reader, you're like, okay, I don't know what just happened, but Dredd's recuperating from whatever it was just happened. Then you have
the moon
a one-shot
moving
story plus a Sinister Dexter that's part 3. It's just really, and hey, I don't run 2000 AD, and so I'm sure they're better at this stuff than me, but it seems to me if you're going to have a jumping on prog, there's got to be a way that you can line it up so everything starts new.
Yeah, that was the point of the jumping on Prog.
And last year we got 4 out of 5 were brand new stories, right?
And they were just. I don't even want to compare this to last year's because it's going to make me less enthused about this year's than I already am.
I'm with you. I think last year's jumping on at this time last year, the stories that we had in 2000 AD were so good, and I still look back at those as being some of my favorite in recent memory. I loved Guatemala. It was so fucking weird and zany, and then of course the major absence of the the Dark Judges stuff, the Dead World. That's that's rough. It's not easy.
We were promised to return in 2020, and here we are in 2020, and they ain't returned yet. Again, this year's sucked enough as it is. Can we at least send the Dark Judges and Dead World?
Well, there's still time, but we are running out.
Yeah, it seems like we're just crashing towards an end altogether now.
Well, there's always the moon, Johnny.
Don't get me started. Again.
So, I mean, really, for me, that's all I have with regards to this week's prog.
Yeah, I got nothing for the prog. I did want to mention, and this is completely unrelated to the prog and to Dredd. As all of our loyal listeners know, H.M.K. and I are huge wrestling marks. And today it was announced that Road Warrior Animal passed away. And the last remaining member of one of my all-time favorite tag teams, the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom. So I had a sad all day. I'm going to watch some badass Road Warrior matches before AEW starts tonight. But I wanted to mention his passing. All hail the Road Warriors. One of the two in a sport where people pretend to be badasses. They were two of the most legitimate badasses there ever were.
Pretty
inside
much
and outside.
They were pretty much to wrestling what we are to podcasting. Legitimate badasses.
That's right.
May he rest in peace. And of course we've discussed this in several instances. The Road Warriors were not my tag team because I didn't watch WCW, but they had made enough of an impact for me that I knew who they were because my favorite tag team, Demolition, you can't mention that without people saying that Demolition are just ripoffs of the Road Warriors. So that's how big of an impact they made on the wrestling world, to the point where it was hard to overshadow what they brought to the fucking the table. So yeah, rest in peace, Animal.
I mean, there were tales because they came up from Chicago, but they also hung out in Minnesota. And there was a bar in Minnesota where back in the early days before they all broke big, the bouncers of this bar in one given night were Hawk Animal, Rick Rude, and was it Mr. Perfect? So those are four big dudes, and the legend is that they used to take turns at the end of the night tossing drunks out of the bar for distance. And I mean, they hit J.J. Dillon so hard in the first War Games match, that he refused to be a part of any more War Games matches.
Did they ever say? Have they said what happened to Road Warrior Animal? Did they mention?
From what I've seen thus far, they said it was natural causes. I mean, you can't live like that for that long, and at that speed and taking what you need to take to be that big, because the human body only gets so big before you have to start adding stuff to it, and all that stuff it ages your heart so quickly. And I mean, he was only 60. And that sounds weird saying he was only 60, because when I was 20, 60 seemed ancient. But now that I'm 40,
it's real close.
Holy crap. That's like right breathing down my neck. But yeah, it's, that whole class of wrestlers. I mean, we've lost so many already. I mean, Mosh is gone. Perfect's gone. Rick Rude's gone. Both Road Warriors are gone. But Brutus the Barber Beefcake is still here somehow.
All of our favorite dudes are dead, John.
Vader's gone.
Yeah.
That's the worst part about watching old stuff on the WWE Network, is it's just like, oh, look, 4 out of the 5 people in this match are dead, including the ref.
Right.
Jesus. So, RIP, go watch. If you've never watched the Road Warriors work, look them up on YouTube. They were just phenomenal in that ring. They were larger than life and twice as tough.
And they had some dorky haircuts, but we'll let that slide today.
You watch it. You watch it. So, hey, this week on CER, we will be covering the Small House, which also made me sad. It's not been a good week for Cool Johnny Cool. But no, I really enjoyed the Small House. I'm looking forward to talking about it. I wish 2000 AD would stop making characters for me to like, only to kill them. God damn it. So, until next time, this is Cool Johnny Cool.
Heavy Metal Kid.
And you've been listening to Cursed Earth Radio.
Keep listening, creeps.